Hey everyone, this is a trader investor. In this video, I am going to show you how I use TrendSpider to find break of structure strategies. By break of structure, I mean how do I find trades that are forming some sort of a higher high, higher lows, or lower high, lower lows for a good entry based on price action, right? Nothing else. No other indicator, no moving averages, no lower chart indicators, no upper chart indicator, strictly price action indicator, and how I use that to find trading opportunities. And first, if we just take any chart, and I just happen to have GWW, I don't know why it's on here. It must have come through some scan, but what I am looking for is for price to form some sort of a pattern, higher highs, higher lows, and continue that pattern. And ideally is when we have that first low, this is the area that we want to enter. This is ideally our entry area. So I'll remove the drawing to make it clear, and I'll just add this area here is our entry. So as our entry, we can enter it when we break above this high, or when we retest that high. We have two entries that are exactly the same entries. So ideally, it's the first time that we have this that we want to enter. Now the question is, we can't scan through thousands of charts. We want to create a scan, and I found TrendSpider to be able to give us the scan that we're looking for this kind of trend analysis. And for TrendSpider, I have a 15% discount that I will include in the comment section below. In the description of this video, I will include the link to my subscription so that you can get that 15% discount. Make sure you take advantage of that. I'm sure you're going to enjoy TrendSpider. It has a lot of power. As you all know, TrendSpider is one that will show you trends if you choose to include them in your chart, right? So it will draw trends. You can decide how much of that trend you want to draw. Do you want to draw more lines, which is enhanced, and you can go deeper into that. But this is not a conversation about the trend lines, but this is very, very powerful tool where you don't have to draw the trend lines. The trend lines are drawn for you to help you make a faster decision in your trading. And when you're doing multi-time frame analysis, you can add the trend line not just of the current time frame that you're looking at, but also the higher time frame, which could be the daily. If you're looking at the 45 minutes, it could be the 90 minutes. Whatever time frame you're looking at, it will draw you that trend line for that time frame. As you can see, all I have to do is just switch the timeline, the second timeline, and those trend lines are added. And after you make your decision to make it less of a clutter, you can remove the trend line here, or you can just unclick it here and it will remove it completely. So you have multiple options on how and where you want to add those trend lines. Again, this is not really a conversation about trend lines. This is really going to go into how do I find these opportunities. Right, I'm going to go into the market scan, and what I will do, I'll maximize it for now so that you can see what I'm looking for. And here, first I will choose which market I want to scan, right? I like to scan the Russell 2000. That's one of the scans that I really like to use to find opportunities, or the S&P 500. It doesn't matter, right? And then you can say, hey, I'm going to call this scan for structure, right? You can scan for structure. This is what we want to call it. And then now we need to add some parameters. You can add all of the following, none of the following, or any of the following. In this case, I'm going to show you, I'm going to add all of the following. And the condition is I want price in the 45 minutes, because that's the time frame I'm looking for, low to be greater than, and then I'll use an indicator for that same 45 minutes, and I call it range. So the range low of the last 20 days, and make sure you do previous bar from one candle ago so it doesn't include the current candle. So what this is saying is I want the current low to be higher than the lowest low of the last 20 days. This is what this is saying. Why is that important? Well, this is what we want. We want this low to be higher than this low. This is basically what we're looking for. And every bar will give you that condition. Every bar will give you that condition. The way I narrow it down even further, I will add another condition. Again, price in the 45 minutes. This time the high is less than indicator, again, that same 45 minutes, range, this time range high, and I will explain, and then I'll change this to 10, apply from 1 bar ago, scan. And what I have done in this case is price, when price is doing this, remember every bar that makes a higher low counts for the first line. Every bar that makes a higher low than the lowest low of the last 20 bars count. However, what I want to see is I want to see a pullback. I want to see a pullback first. So now the first range, if we say this is 20 days, this is the first range, I want my second range to be 10 days, right? Half of that. In 10 days, I want the high, this current high, to be lower than the highest high in the last 10 days. What this is saying is, in a good upward moving 20 days, in the last 10 days, I want to see some pullback. Therefore, it doesn't give me any of these as it's just going up and up and up. It gives me, when I have a nice pullback, this is an area that I have now. So when I get this, now it's time for me to say, okay, when I break this high, or when I break some trend line, or when I get some candlestick or chart pattern down here, I'm going to enter a position, right? It prepares me for that position. And so now what I want to do is, let's save this scan for structure. We're going to save that scan. And then we can get out of market, maximized market scan. We can completely minimize it, or we can close it, but I'm going to minimize it. Why? Because I saved it. I saved it, and I have here, I have scan for structure in the Russell 2000. So it has given me a result, right? Sometimes the result might be significantly more than the plan that I chose, right? I don't have the highest plan, but I have other things that I'm going to show you how I minimize this list. For me, the goal is not to get 100. For me, the goal is to get somewhere between 1 and let's say 20, 25 max. I want to narrow it down as little as possible, because I don't want to spend 2 hours going through charts. I just want to spend 15-20 minutes and go through my charts and ready to go. That's what I want to do. So we're going to add some more conditions to this indicator. But first, let's see what our scan has done, right? We started from this low, we formed a high, a low, a high, a low, a high, a low, a high, a low, a high. Now from this high, we're actually lower, right? So this condition is true. We're lower than the last 10 bars. We're higher than the last 20 bars. When you're doing 45 minutes, it's 45 minutes bars. If it's doing days, it's 20 days, right? So it all depends on your time frame. But we have set the scanner to 45 minutes. So it's looking at the last 10 bars. We're lower than the last 10 bars. So now my goal is, do I enter at the break of this high, or has this structure gone up so far that it's too late for me? That's a session for another day. That's more analysis that is required before we can place that entry. But the goal is, the scanner has now found it for us. This scanner would have found it for us here. It would have found it for us here. This is the earliest entry possibilities. Then we would have been able to ride this move up here, right? That's the goal, right? Is to find it as early as possible. So every one that you pull up, the price low is higher than the last 20 bars. It's lower than the last 10 bars. That's what we're looking for. So here we would have found a good entry here, a good entry here, a good entry here. As it gets up to equal highs here, this is where I start to get concerned and maybe skip those entries, right? But the idea now that you've seen, we have found this. We have found this. Now let's go back to our scanner. Let's go back to our scanner and let's pull up scan for structure, right? Let's maximize it so you can see it. And now what I want to add is, I want to add a condition group, and the first one is price on the 45 minutes. I'm not saying anything for now yet, because I want you to start to think about what I'm trying to do here. Range high, and then add condition price 45 minute low greater than indicator 45 minute range low 10 days, apply. So now what I have done is, I have created this upper here and this lower to find both the upper structure and the lower structure. The way this is designed is not going to work, right? Because it's going, if I say to any of these, it'll just look any of this one, any of this two. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create another conditional group and repeat the top one. Price 45 minutes. I'm doing this intentionally long for you, so you can see what I'm doing here. So you can see what I'm doing. I think it's good to be able to see this. And then condition price 45 minutes. A little bit tedious work, but at the end of the day, it's worth it. Indicator, because it finds you all the things that you need. It finds you all the things that you need. 10, apply. Now that I have these two groups, I can remove this one. So now I can say any of these conditions, either the first condition or the second condition. So what I have done is the first one says lower highs, lower lows. Second one, higher highs, higher lows. I want to be able to find the structure on either side. So I'm going to save that. Now you saw that I've already found more than 100 on just the one side. So this definitely is showing us above 100 on both sides. So what we're going to do is I am going to add to each one. I'm going to add a condition, and my condition would say I want price on the daily to be the close on the daily to be less than constant value. Let's just say 200. Maybe you're trading on a smaller account, right? So we'll repeat that here. Condition, price on the daily on the close to be less than constant value 200, right? So maybe that's what we're doing. So less than 200. And the other thing you can add to this is volume. Maybe we add a volume. Maybe we add a volume as an indicator on the daily volume. So volume, we want greater than constant value 500,000, right? Maybe this is what we want. So same thing here, right? There's a way we can make this a little bit better by not having to add this multiple times, but you get the idea. We want the volume to be greater than 500,000, right? We can save it, and now when we scan, it should be a much smaller number. We might still get more than the 100, but it's actually a beautiful number that we see, because what we are seeing here is it only gave us 31, right? This is the idea. The idea is to now get a very, very small number. So save. I want to make sure we save our structure. Once we save it, we can get out of this scan, and now whatever we see, we can decide, did we get it on the upside or the downside, right? So we just keep coming here and looking. Okay, now this is to the downside. Price is making lower highs, especially here, lower high, lower low, to the downside. This is how you use TrendSpider to find price action entries. I think one of the biggest challenges in price action trading is, when do you find a good entry? Of course, there's times where you say, okay, that's why I have moving averages here, but the way I'm going to use these moving averages for a scan is to say, hey, when price pulls back to the 50, for example, 50 EMA, let me know, right? So that shows, okay, price is going up, pulling back to the 50 as a pullback, and then find some chart pattern, candlestick pattern, to show me that the pullback is terminated for an entry. That's another way to find an entry, but this way I wanted to show you a real solid way of using price action to determine entries, to find potential trading opportunities. And when your list is 31, 10 minutes work at night and you're done. Like these big gap downs like this, you can just say, hey, I'm going to ignore, right? And we can even add other things to it to say, hey, I don't want to deal anything that is less than $20, right? You can add those market conditions, right? You can add market conditions that says, hey, I want to make sure that condition price on the daily close is greater than constant value 30, right? Same thing down here, condition price on the daily close is greater than constant value 30. Save, scan. Now we're going to get much smaller number, but this is fantastic. That's the idea. That's the idea. Right, that's the idea, is to find the real solid entries. The real solid entries. And if we get, you know, I think I had it 5 million instead of 500,000. So my list is going to get bigger. Again, as my list gets too big, this is where I want to narrow down on my results. Maybe I'll say, okay, I only want to do 1 million. The higher the volume, the more the stocks move, and the better chance you have of your price action, right? Because there's demand, always is demand, supply. If you're doing stocks that are only trading 50,000 shares a day, you're not going to get the price action as far as technical analysis is concerned. What you really want to do is get the real price action, right? That's your goal. You want to get the real price action. And as you can see, I just narrowed it down to 21, right? The purpose of this video, the real purpose of this video is to show you to find ways to scan the whole market and then narrow it down to a manageable few. When you narrow down, you don't want to narrow down good opportunities. You want to narrow down on criteria that you say, I don't want to trade outside this criteria, right? For example, anything below $30 in this scan, I don't want to trade. Especially for me, I like options. So anything less than $30 does not excite me. So I do $30. And I gave you an upper boundary of 200 because for different account size, an option of a $200 stock is pricey, right? So that's why I gave you an upper boundary. You can play with that upper boundary. Maybe it's for you, it might be 100 or it might be 1,000. So you play around with that. If you have a very large account, then there's no upper boundaries, right? You can do the Teslas, the Amazons, and you'll be fine as well. So it all depends on your account size, but here I gave you the framework on what to use for price action. And then based on that, you modify your charts. You modify your criteria for entry, and then you look at your charts and say, is this giving me an opportunity to enter? And not only for trading, right? So here we are forming a very big pullback. Do I have an opportunity? We're at the 50 EMA. Is this an area of value? Could this be an area where I pull back, right? I'm not using moving indicators, right? Moving averages to say, hey, pull the trigger here, but they just give you a good guidance, especially when trying to find a good scan. So I'm pulling back to that 50. Do I have a sign here? Do I have a candlestick that says I'm done pulling back? Can I enter? You can even use this for long-term buy and hold. Like, I'm glad it found this for me, the Asana. I want Asana. I got out of Asana in the 130 range. I got out at a good time, and now I want to get back in. So I'm trying to find a nice opportunity to get back in. So this is where it finds me those opportunities, right? So is it at the break of these highs? Do I want to see something else, or do I just jump in right now? This is a decision I need to make based on my pull the trigger criteria. Now that you have the fundamental structure on how to find the scanner using TrendSpider, you're set. You're good to go. All right, everyone, take care for now. I'll see you in the next video, and don't forget to use the discount code that I have included as part of this video description. Take care for now.